Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you cruise a little smarter. It is 2023, and we are recording for the first time. And joining me today is our amazing co-host all the way down in Florida. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve. The sun is shining. It's beautiful blue skies.
You guys made it through your winter spell over Christmas, where it was like 20 degrees or 30 degrees when we were down there.
Yes, it'll be cold again, but it won't. It is also, this is the pleasant season. This is like, you sometimes get to wear a sweatshirt and long pants. It's so lovely.
Yeah, you're thinking, well, Christmas is behind us. The holidays are behind us, although we're going to be down there for Marathon Weekend here. And I love the fact that they keep the trees up and the castle decorated while you get to run through the Magic Kingdom. And then they take it down and it's on to all the springtime stuff, right?
Yes. Christmas is over.
I've got one other thing. Have you seen The Making of the Disney Wish? We watched that last night.
Yes, it was so good.
What'd you think? Okay, so super good.
Well, okay, I thought it was good. You thought it was good, right? Like, I wanted more. I also thought, okay, we know that like atrium and all this stuff wasn't ready. And even on our sailing, when Chris and I went on the Enchanted Showcase, blah, 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 there was like electrical work being done. So I feel like they didn't quite stress enough about how undone the ship was when it was time to launch.
I think you're right. I mean, just because we had the insider's knowledge, and everybody that's listened to the podcast knew when you and Chris sailed that there was wires hanging down and some things like that. But I guess I could kind of pick that up, that they were still working on it as they were talking about, like, they had the press on and everything else. I was looking for you to see the two of you walking into the lobby, but unfortunately you didn't make the cut.
And they were filming for sure on our sailing, but I feel like some of that was the previous sailing. Okay. That occurred. The one that was more press. Although we had a lot of press. So I don't know. It could have been ours. Maybe not.
But if you haven't seen it yet, it's on National Geographic Channel. I heard that it's on the app now. They debuted it once, and somebody told me it's on the app. So maybe check the app and hopefully.
Oh, cool. Disney Plus?
Yeah. Well, not Disney Plus, on the National Geographic app, but hopefully Disney Plus. It will be on Disney Plus here sometime soon. I liked it overall. It was definitely a little bit of a commercial for it, but
well, of course.
But I loved all the backstories of the Imagineers and everything. The only thing that I wish, just being a kind of a ship geek, I wish I could have seen a little bit more of the ship. Like when they went down to the I-95 corridor and they showed like where they were keeping the Tattinger and all that type of stuff. I wish it would have been cool to see a little bit more behind the scenes stuff on the ship. But
yeah, other cruise lines do galley tours and they do tours and they'll charge money. Disney is so into keeping the magical for their guests that they just will not let people see those areas.
Yeah, they just want you to get on the ship, enjoy yourself, have a great time, but there's some of us that would love to be able to see those backstories. So,
you know what though? Did we ever really talk much about this when my luggage was flagged? I think it was on our Wish cruise, right? That it was the cruise we all did together. That they thought I had a computer plug in my suitcase, but I was like, I don't want to carry this. I'm shoving it in there. And they thought it was an extension cord. And so they flagged, because your luggage goes through the metal detectors I don't know if people know this, but they go through a metal detector and an x-ray machine. That's the word I'm looking for, before like they deliver it to each cabin. My luggage was flagged and I received a message in the app that was like, your luggage is in jail. Basically, you need to come and take it and get it out or whatever. So you're like in this area of the ship that they typically would not have guests in. So I got a little inside look of a little security area and x-ray machines and definitely a backstage area. So I guess if you want to see that area, you could always put your luggage in jail.
Maybe we don't want to like actually say that. Put something illegal in your luggage.
I didn't say illegal. I said get your luggage to be in jail. That is different.
That is true. You're back there. Your poor luggage is behind bars. You're like,
Well, so all of us, there's like several of us and tons of luggage. We're like, what did our luggage do? Like, what did we pack? To that note, okay, we are so off the rails, but this is going to kill you just a little, but let's stay off the rails for one more minute. Yesterday, we went to Animal Kingdom and I had the little wipes that Delta gives out in those little, I guess they call them foil packets. They're like individually packaged Purell wipes. I had 3 of them together in my bag. Wipe your hands before you eat, stuff like that. They made the metal detector go off.
Where we just that just happened to us too, where, or maybe I was with like a flight attendant or something like that. We got random, so we had to go through the security like everybody else did, and they pulled her luggage out because she had a couple of those in her bag.
Yeah, so don't use it. And the lady's like, I'm like, what was in here? You have to tell me because I never want this to happen again. I don't ding in metal detectors. I make it a point never to ding because I don't want to be bothered getting my bag searched. And so, you can request that they change your gloves so that they're looking through your stuff with fresh gloves. And B, you can ask what was the problem so that you can solve it.
There you go. Well, we are going to kick this year off with a DCL 101 show. And, I was kind of thinking about it. There are 2 ports that just about everybody goes to, or not everybody. Well, if you cruise enough with Disney Cruise Line, you're probably going to end up at both of these ports if you sail on the West Coast and the East Coast. And that is Nassau on the East Coast, because, that's the only place the Wish goes to right now. And the Dream and whoever's sailing out of Fort Lauderdale stop there pretty much every other sailing as well, don't they? Or
the Dream is not stopping there.
Well,
currently, usually.
Yeah, there are some sailings with it because a friend of mine just got off and they went to Nassau and then they had a double dip at Castaway. So there are some one-off sailings with the Dream that you might be able to hit that with, but definitely the Wish. And if you're sailing on the West Coast now out of San Diego, which it looks like it's going to continue at least for the next year and a half on the Wonder, and then the Magic is coming over here. One of the ports that you may find yourself into that they stop at the most is Ensenada. And that's a place that Anna Wake and I have been to several times, and we love it. I think that in this, we want to just kind of highlight some things that I think both of these ports maybe get a little, not the love that they deserve sometimes, because there's a lot of fun things that you can do in these ports if you choose to get off. And so I thought we'd highlight some of those things here today.
Yes, you've been very excited about this episode. In fact, I think you reached out to see if I would record it a couple weeks ago. That's how excited you were about it.
We love Ensenada. We've had some great port adventures there. So
you do love Ensenada, and I love that for you.
The town is probably a little bit, it's not going to be your classic town, but we'll talk about Ensenada a second. We're going to kick it off with Nassau. And one of the places that, let me just get your thoughts of Nassau. What are your thoughts of Nassau, Christy?
It's a little bit hard to ask me this because our last time in Nassau was a bit chaotic. We were just in Nassau on the Celebrity Beyond, and there were a lot of large ships in port that day, and a lot of people were coming back through security and through, it's not even security, but to enter the port area. It was chaos. So something to keep in mind, which is not how we want to start this, right? We're not trying to start it negative, but sometimes it's chaos. So keep that in mind. Like, don't come back to your ship at 4:00 or something like that, or 3:30, because a million other people might be. But I think that I love tourism is important for Nassau. And the people that live there have big hearts, and they want to tell you stuff, and they want to show off things. We actually have, we had talked about it once before, an amazing driver in Nassau that if somebody wants to reach out to me, I will send them the number that he drove Anthony and I when we did a day trip to a sandals resort. And so it's just, sometimes, like you said, it gets a bad rap, but it really is, it's a nice port. If you were going on a 3-day Wish, I would say don't get off in Nassau. But if it's a part of a larger overall trip, or you've been on a ship enough that you know the ship and you're ready to explore the ports, she really can be a great place to go out and enjoy.
And that's a good point too. Like you said, we're not saying get off the Wish if it's the first time on the Wish. You may want to spend the time there, but we've talked about this, and I think this is kind of well known, and it can be in both of these ports, but more so I think in Nassau than Ensenada, where a lot of people are going to stay on the ship. And so if you think you're going to be in a port day where it's going to be quiet on the ship, and you're going to be able to go on the Aqua Mouse 100 times, in a row without anybody else being there, you're probably not going to find that to be the fact.
No, and the Aqua Mouse isn't even going to open until noon.
Well, that's true.
So
the other thing that I will throw out there too is we just in our latest sailing in Jamaica decided not to do anything, just to get out and walk around. And the other thing to realize also is if you decide to stay on the ship on the port days, a lot of times there's not as many activities scheduled as you're going to find on the sea days. So Something else to kind of be cognizant of.
Absolutely. Like, there will be some things, and the kids clubs will still be open, or like one half of it will be open for the ones that are under 12 and under. But yeah, there's definitely going to be less going on because they do rely on a certain number of passengers getting off the ship.
Okay, before we touch on a couple of things that you can do in Nassau, one of my favorite places to go to is Cruise Critic. There's a lot of different places where you can get information out there. And what Cruise Critic says about Nassau says the pros to Nassau is the port is vibrant and easily navigable, offering beach activities and affordable souvenirs. The cons, it's a commercialized and often crowded. Pushy locals hinder relaxation by hawking their wares sometimes. Bottom line, this is a great destination for first-time cruisers looking for an affordable beach time.
Yep. The port is under construction, so you will notice that, which maybe that was part of the reason why it was chaos. Between the rain, I mean, I'm telling you, there was a monsoon. Between that and the port being under construction, there's just a little added fun for those reasons.
So let's get a little bit background on Nassau. Nassau, with its blend of influences from West Africa to England, from Haiti to the United States, is one of the most popular and often congested cruise ports in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. The yellow and blue stripes on the Bahamian flag, which you'll see on the back of all the Disney ships because that's where they're home ported out of, represent the nation's sandy beaches and surrounding ocean, while the black triangle stands for unity and the people's determination to develop the land and the sea. With endlessly developing hotels, resorts, and shopping areas, it isn't hard to make this connection in Nassau, the capital of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And by the way, Castaway Cay is part of the Bahamas. Nassau is located on the 21-mile-long island of New Providence and is connected via bridge to Paradise Island and other popular Bahamian destinations. And I'm just about done here, but the city of Nassau features tropical tree-lined streets filled with horse-drawn surreys, ruled by policemen with starched jackets and colorful pith helmets, soft-sanded beaches for kicking back and catching ocean breezes, lavish Vegas-style casinos, which you'll see over in the Atlantis Casino over there in hotel resort area, and decent range.
Others, just so you know, that Atlantis Casino is not the only one. And apparently, if somebody's going to a casino, that's not the best one to go to. I think the ones by Belmar are supposed to be better. I have a client, a legal contact, that is very into gambling and long stays in the Bahamas. So,
okay. Vegas-style casinos and a decent range of duty-free shopping stops, but as much as this vibrant town center is a cruise visitor's first impression, most head out on beach adventures at massive hotel and resort complexes like Atlantis, or on boating adventures that range from dolphin encounters to booze cruises. Nassau's central location just off the coast of southern Florida is one of the chief pluses, making it an easy mini cruise port of call for ships passing through on the way to the Caribbean islands. So, Christy, what are some of the things that you have done and that you recommend to your clients to do?
So I would say let's go through the popular. It's been kind of years since I've done a whole lot in Nassau, but the popular excursions or places to go are Blue Lagoon. So Beach Stop, I believe they have dolphins there, experiences that you can do as well. There is Pearl Island, which is a similar beach place to go to where you can get food and stuff like that. Margaritaville actually is a newer resort. They took over an older resort, but they are a newer place that you can do a day pass to, which is very close to the port. If you had good ability to walk, like, strong walkers, you could walk. I think it said like 30 minutes or something it would take to walk there, or you could take a cab. And then there is probably the most popular and maybe, dare I say, overrated location, which is Atlantis. The problem with Atlantis post restart, right? I don't know how else to describe it, but since the 2020 issue, right, occurred, is that people are reporting that it's not quite to the luxury level that it used to be. And so what I would say is, if you wanted to go to Atlantis, which there's like, obviously the casino that you mentioned, there is in Atlantis, let's talk about this for a minute. There is a public part that anybody could go to. You could take a taxi to the water taxi location and go over to the Atlantis hotel. It's like walking through any hotel. You could see the casino part. You can see some shops. There's a couple of restaurants you can get to, but you can't get to like the big water park, and you can't get to some of the other, like the parts you would probably want to go to for the day, right? For the most part, there's always a security guard there. You have to have a ticket, or like they have to show a card or a wristband, however they're tracking you. So there's another way though to get to Atlantis for less money. So typically like an Atlantis day is like $100 and something a person, and you pay and you take the Disney bus. So depending on how comfortable you are doing things on your own, you can actually rent a room at the Comfort Suites Paradise Island. You could take a cab from the port to there, And I did call to confirm like the process. They don't have a day pass anymore. You're physically renting a hotel room like you would in any other hotel room, right? So your room may not be available until 3. So you're really though having access to Atlantis. And when you go to check in, you can check in as early as, 9:30. And they will give you a wristband to wear over to Atlantis. And it's like very close. The location is very close that you can go over. So you can spend time in the Comfort Inn and Suites pool area as well. You can eat there if you wanted, but you have full access to Atlantis. So for a family, that is going to be a much more cost-effective way to spend your day. And I think it's like the hotel room's like $200 depending on the night, right? But $200 for the night versus the $100 and something per person.
I guess just to know about Atlantis, we've never been over there, but I know that Chris from California has been over there with his family, and they rented a cabana and just did a pool day there, which included food. So there's a lot of different options over there. You don't have to do the water park. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Just check the website out, check Atlantis's website out. And then that's a great tip, Christy, for a way for a family to save money to spend time in Atlantis.
Yeah, especially if you have like 4 kids or something, it really adds up. My brother has also spent a couple of days there on a few different cruises, and they love it. They love the water park atmosphere, right? Which is obviously something that's not in my wheelhouse. A water park is not how I would typically choose to spend a day, but it is an option. We did on our celebrity cruise spend the day at Margaritaville. I will say from the gluten-free aspect, I ate safely, but it was a little bit of work. It was like $110 or something for 4 of us to eat. And I don't think we got any drinks besides 1 Coke for Dave. So not an inexpensive lunch meal, which is how every resort's going to be. But they have like a huge lazy river. They have beachfront. And that really is a close location to the port. Like you can take a cab if you were going to do that. It's $5 a person. So nice and easy to and from. Yeah. So those are some choices for the day.
So let's talk about the Blue Lagoon just quick, because that's another place that offers a lot of different options. Both the Blue Lagoon and it was Pearl Island, I believe. The launches meet right there as you get off the ship. So you get off, you're going to get on a launch. It's going to take you there. The Blue Lagoon has like a bunch of different options. You can spend just a beach day there. You can do dolphin encounters. You can swim with the dolphins. You can meet sea lions. There's actually a VIP adults only beach day where they have a section of the beach cordoned off. And I think it was Zach and his wife have done that in the past. He was on and talked about that over at the Blue Lagoon. I guess the one thing to kind of know is during COVID, they were separating the Blue Lagoon or maybe spots on the Blue Lagoon by cruise ship. Mm-hmm. But now if there's other cruise ships in town, because of COVID.
They were keeping every ship in a bubble.
Right. So everybody's ship was kind of in a bubble, but now it's just back to normal where just be aware that if you go over there, if there's 2 or 3 other cruise ships in town, it's just not going to be you and your fellow Disney passengers that are over there. Will be probably other people from the other ships as well. The one thing that we had planned the last time, 2 times ago when we were there, was we were going to snorkel last Thanksgiving time, and we're going to do a catamaran sail, and it was really windy that day. So just kind of like Castaway, it can be windy there, and they ended up canceling it because of the wind. So.
And remember that in these months between December and February, the weather could be cool. The Bahamas are very close to Miami. So when you're thinking of what the weather can be and is in Florida, you're often going to get similar weather. So it's not always hot depending on the time of day or the time of year you go.
A couple other things I know people have done is they've done the semi-submarine, and we talked to a family that did that. Really enjoyed that. If you can't get into the water and scuba dive or don't want to snorkel, it's a chance to basically see under the sea and cruise around. We've done one of those submarines in Hawaii, and that was kind of a really cool experience. There's also deep sea fishing. And I just want to touch on this because when we were on our Wish cruise, I know you thought we were kind of crazy to do this because we actually got off on our Nassau day, and Anawake and I and the kids went scuba diving at Stewart Cove. It was a little bit of a drive. It was about an hour to get over there and a little bit longer on the way back just due to traffic. As you said, everybody's kind of coming back to the port at the same time to leave. But it was a really amazing scuba diving experience. We did our first dive was a wall dive and saw a lot of fish and coral. And then the second dive we did at Stewart Cove was over this wreck. And people have listened to this before. There was just a ton of nurse sharks down below. So we got to see them. And then there's some black tip reef sharks that were kind of circling around and they were just kind of checking us out, but they didn't really want to come in. But that was just an amazing dive, probably one of my favorite ones. So really good equipment. The dive master and the people that helped out on the ship or the boat that took us out there were very professional. Really enjoyed our time at Stewart Cove and would definitely go back. Yeah,
and a lot of people get off too to just walk around and eat and shop. And like you said, there's duty-free shopping. And I've done this before. It's like right out of the port, a couple of streets over. So, and there's a couple of streets. I believe Anthony actually went with his friend once, and they did quite a bit of shopping in those stores. One other thing to consider is if you have any accessibility issues with walking long distances, the Port of Nassau it's a pretty good size walk to get off, depending especially which berth you're in, getting off your ship and getting to the exit of the port area. They actually have golf carts that at this point now will pick you up, are outside of your ship, and there's no charge for this, but it is customary to tip the driver, and they will drive you to the front of the port. We did this for my mom. It is a really nice feature if you need that to get to the front. So keep that in mind. And then they're there at the front to take you back when it's time to get back to the ship.
They recently redid the straw market. Have you been there?
No.
Okay, so we went there once again last Thanksgiving time, and it was still just kind of opening up from, because of COVID and everything else. So there wasn't a lot of vendors there. There was a ton of product there and like little stalls and spaces, but a lot of them were closed. But I know that that's a pretty vibrant place that you can walk to pretty easily. Well, as long as you don't have mobility issues, because the sidewalks can be a little bit tricky there, but you can walk to from the ship.
Yes.
And I would say both of these ports, and I think, would you agree with this, Christy? They may not be the most scenic in some ways as some quaint little port in Alaska maybe or whatnot, but they're definitely safe ports that you can get off, walk around, and explore a little bit within the port area itself. So when we were just in Jamaica, on the other hand, they have kind of in Falmouth there, they've got a ship made. It was a really cute area that they've done up with vendors, and it was nice because they didn't really harass you too much as far as like trying to sell stuff. But they really said, do not go outside of here unless you know where you're going because of safety concerns. But I don't think that for the most part, walking around Nassau and Ensenada, you're going to face any of those kind of considerations.
Right.
So anything else?
I've done it. So it was about 10 years ago. Sorry. My uncle and I, when we ported there, did like a pretty long walk in Nassau. We went all the way down to where the governor's house is and like a whole bunch of different buildings and just really walked. So it was good.
So two other things I guess to touch on, money wise, you can use dollars in both of these ports. So you don't have to, and they will definitely take your credit cards if you've got that. And then the last thing I'll say is if you go to Disney's website, it's a great, and under Port Adventures, it's a great place to kind of, see what there is to do in each one of these places. But just realize that like right now, NASA shows like 39 results. But once your cruise is booked, you're going to want to look at what's available, because sometimes they show adventures that are not always available because maybe the vendor is not operating that day or maybe they're changing vendors or something like that. So just be aware that what they show under the Port Adventures site may be different than what's available when you actually book your cruise and go to book those Port Adventures. Yeah, and that's going to be the case for every port. Right. And sometimes they add stuff too. So go back and take a look before you leave, because maybe you'll find something a little bit different that you like to do. Okay. Anything else about Nassau? Really quick before we leave this topic, with Port Adventures, you have until 3 days before your cruise to cancel, and you do not get charged for Port Adventures until you're on the ship. But if you need to cancel a Port Adventure once you are on the ship, it is very likely you will not get a refund. If they have a wait list and they can fill your spot, they'll give you a refund. Sometimes with something like scuba diving, I just had this happen that I had an ear infection. And you guys, if you listen to those trip reports from our Christmas cruise, I still don't sound right, but you can hear in my voice, it just wasn't right. And so they allowed me to have a refund of my port excursion for scuba diving because I wasn't going to be able to go. But it's at their discretion, and technically they're not refundable because they've paid the vendors once you are on the ship. So change, do whatever, but don't miss that 3 day before
where you lock in and confirm what port adventures you want to do.
Well, let's turn to the West Coast and Ensenada. The Wonder has been sailing out of San Diego. She's going to stay here all through the winter. They offer different sailings that sometimes they just touch Catalina in a sea day, sometimes they do Ensenada in a sea day, and sometimes they do both on a 4-day, and then sometimes they go all the way down to Cabo and back. So a lot of different options, but as far as all the ports that are the port that you're going to have the most opportunity to go to out of San Diego, at least for the near future right now, is Ensenada. So what does cruise critics say about Ensenada? Ensenada is known as Baja's love boat port and is no longer a sleepy resort town. Each year, some 4.5 million visitors descend on the seaside city, 68 miles from the border, joining 325,000 residents. Fishing, processing, and shipping have made Ensenada Mexico's second busiest port. And every time we've been there, there's been another ship.
Is everybody still just hung up on the love boat port? Like, why?
I don't know, but Princess was there one time, so Princess was the original love boat. So,
well, right? Maybe. Do you think they recorded something there? Like, don't you just need? I need more information.
I thought they were always at Acapulco. I mean, we were totally.
I don't even know what you said after you called it the love boat. I was just focused on that. Okay,
you're thinking of Captain Steubing and all the rest of his crew having a great time with the odd guests from the 70s and 80s. Okay, it's quite a change from 1542 when Portuguese explorer Juan Rodrigues Cabrillo sailed into the sheltered bay in his quest for the mythical Northwest Passage, or 60 years later when Sebastian, and I apologize, I'm not the best with my Spanish, Vizcaíno, named the area Ensenada de Todos los Santos after All Saints' Day. Over the centuries, many have left their mark here, from Spanish missionaries and Russian settlers to gold miners and gamblers. The result is an eclectic mix from Mexico's oldest winery and Baja's first cantina to a plaza featuring statues of national heroes. In addition to unexpected attractions like the large tourist shopping area and fish market, Ensenada also offers the unexpected and elegant Prohibition-era casino and a blowhole that spews water 60 feet in the air. And supposedly I was on a roll here for just a second. What's the famous Mexican drink? Why can't I say it? The margarita. Supposedly the margarita was developed in Ensenada. They tell you that when you go by this casino.
And in every other Mexican city.
Probably. Ensenada is an informal city dependent on fishing, shipping, and tourism. Among the highlights are fresh seafood, cantinas, craft shopping, sport fishing, winter whale watching. Beaches are located north and south of the city. So why go to Ensenada, the pros say? Pros are Ensenada offers a killer food scene if you know where to look, from ceviche, carts to margarita joints. The cons, be wary if you get dropped off at a local beach away from town, you might be walking back. I would say that if you're thinking like Caribbean beaches and everything like that, this is not the kind of beach place you're going to go to. It's hard sand and the water can be very cold. I don't really think Ensenada is a beach stop, to be completely honest. Bottom line, the port's main tacos. I remember
you got some of the best tacos you've ever had in your life.
Shark tacos near the Bufador. The port's main shopping and dining district is full of diversions if you don't mind a hard sell. So, talking about Ensenada, you have not been. Did you guys stop there on the way on your? I can't remember. No. After Cabo, you guys just went straight up to San Diego.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't stop there after Cabo for sure. I have never stopped there.
Okay. Well, it's a great little port. It's walkable. It's smaller than once you get off. If you want to walk into town, it's probably about the same distance when you think about like how far you have to walk on the port to get into Nassau. For those of you who've been to Nassau, to get into the first parts of the town. If you're going to go into town, we actually have not walked in there, but I know that you can talk to the locals as you get off and get a lot of recommendations as far as taco places or places to eat that are close to the port. If you do an excursion like we did last time where we went snorkeling when we came back, they had a lot of recommendations for places to eat or maybe to go shop in Ensenada. So that's a good way to, if you want to continue on and explore the city a little bit, or the town a little bit.
If you have food allergies, gluten, for example, super easy. I would say go print off a gluten-free Spanish card. You can get them on the internet for free, or you can like donate $5 to their website or something. You can take it to the location because most of these places have corn tortillas, and really it's the United States that puts flour in everything and other places don't. So you can actually feel pretty safe eating in these locations. For a gluten-free diet, for example, just print off the card so that you have something that's written in Spanish that tells them what your needs are, and they can tell you if you could eat there or not.
So what are some of the things that you can do in Ensenada? I'll touch on the things that Anawake and I and the kids have done overall, but they definitely, I think this is a place where I would maybe more encourage you to kind of find a port adventure that you would enjoy, that's going to teach you a little bit about maybe the Mexican history, or experience just a little bit of Mexico while you're down there. They do offer a lot of things just like Cozumel. You can go ATV riding. You can go horseback riding. I'm not sure. I don't want to dissuade the horseback. It's like horseback riding on the beaches, but the beaches aren't really the most scenic, I would say.
And the horses are usually... I've done this once years and years ago, but they look like they need a sandwich.
Yeah. But they have ATV adventures. They've got beach adventures. A lot of the same things that you're going to find in Cozumel and some of the other Mexican towns. What we have done, and I'll touch on the 3 that we've done that have been really amazing. We've done the first one we've done twice. We've gone over to the La Bufadora, which is the blowhole they're talking about. It is one of, I think it's like 5 or 6 recognized blowholes around the world for being a place that people actually travel around and see. If you don't want to kayak, which is what we've done, they actually have you can take a bus over there. It's about an hour bus ride, and you will be able to actually, there's a little shopping area where you can shop. There's some of the best fish tacos I've ever had in my life. Shark tacos. There's a reason why they do shark versus fish, and I can't remember why. It has to do with the flavor of the meat and the freshness of it. Not the freshness of it, but just the flavor of the meat and the way the consistency stays together when they cook it. But there is kind of a viewing port of the La Bufadora. But what we've done, and if you're active, and I will say that you end up in the open ocean a little bit, so it can be windy and it can be athletic to be able to do this, is to take a kayak out. And generally what they'll do is they'll split the group up into who wants to go a little further and who wants to just go to the blowhole. It's probably about a 20-minute paddle to get out there. You don't have to know how to kayak, but it is a little tricky getting into and out of the kayak because it is wavy as you come into and out of the beach. So just be aware of that. But they take you right up to the blowhole, and they'll bring you together and raft together, and you can watch it for probably about 5-10 minutes or so. Is the kayak the only way you can get to the blowhole? No. Like I said, there's like it's right along the road. So the blowhole's like just down below from the road, and there's actually a kind of a viewing area that they've built so that you can do that too if you're really interested in seeing it. So you can take just a bus over there and watch it. For the ones that are a little bit more energetic, what has been fun is they take you a little bit further, and there's some islands out there, and they'll take you around the islands. And because of the wave action and everything like that, when you go around the backside of the islands, it's almost like being on a roller coaster. It's super cool. It kind of, you're going up and down, and it kind of shoots you through because the water's kind of channeling behind those islands. So Wade gets a little motion sick. How is she done with that? She's done fine, but to that point, Chad and his family came with, and I think his daughter was not liking it the most. So that is something to be wary of, is like I said, if it's a little bit of a windy day out there in the ocean, the waves can be going up and down. So if you are motion sickness, but you still want to do this, you might want to think about taking something ahead of time to help with that. So that is one of the port adventures that we've really enjoyed. Last time we were there, we went we went snorkeling, and this was really cool. We went out to some islands. It was probably been an hour-long boat ride. Once again, it was a little choppy going out there, so if you have some motion sickness issues, you might want to do that. But once we got out there, the water's cold, but it includes wetsuits, so you wear a full wetsuit and head, something over your head and everything like that. But they take you kind of through this trail around the islands, and you can see all kinds of kelp forests, the Garibaldi, which Chris has on her arm, which is the California fish. It's kind of a rare fish to see, and there's like tons of them down there. I guess it's rare to see in California, but there's tons of them down there around the island there. Sometimes you'll see seals swimming around. We definitely saw seals above the water. I didn't get to see. They're kind of curious. They'll come up and follow you around, but I didn't actually see them under the water. But just a lot to see. So if you're looking for something different other than your normal coral and tropical fish, this might be in your adventurous. This might be a fun excursion for you. So we really enjoyed that. Then the last one I want to touch on is Ensenada is really kind of like the breadbasket of Mexico. They grow a lot of the crops that are used within Mexico, and they have one of the biggest wineries. They produce 70%, they said, of the wine that's sold in Mexico, and it's called La Siete Winery, and it's your traditional winery tour. It's probably about a 30-minute bus ride out to the winery itself, and you get to go and see the production facilities, the barrels that they keep it in, and then afterwards they take you in. For us, once again, this is during COVID, so it was a little bit more separate, but normally there's outside spaces that you can sit and sample the wines. Here they kept us, because there was a couple different ships in town, they kept everybody separate. They brought us in an inside tasting room. They had cheeses and crackers that you could have. you can enjoy. And then they stepped you through the different wines that they made. And I am not a wine connoisseur or snob, but we drink a fair amount of wine, and it was really good wine. We really enjoyed it. So that was a fun. It was funny. He goes, everybody's going to be quiet on the way out. And he goes, and then we're going to stop at the first winery, and we get to the second, on the way to the second winery, everybody's going to be talking. You guys are going to have a great time. And then the half-hour ride back, everybody's going to take a nap as they get back to the ship. And it was exactly like that.
That's awesome.
But the second winery, say the first winery, you got a little bit of snacks. The second winery they take you to, I will say the wines are not as good, but they give you 3 samplings there of the wines that are made. And then they also have kind of a market where you can get tacos. Chips and salsa were included, and some cheeses as well. A bunch of different salsas that were amazing, but you had to pay for the tacos. But the thing that I think that we really enjoyed was they actually had some live a guitar player sitting out there. So, I mean, it was just a beautiful day sitting out there, eating some tacos in the beautiful sun down in Mexico, listening to this guy sing some, fun sing-alongs, 70s, 80s type of music and everything like that. It was just a really, really fun adventure. So a couple of the things, and I think what we're going to do next time, we've got this booked again next October, is there's actually a Mexican cooking class. So we're going to try that one out. So kind of delving into all the different things that you can do in Ensenada. Once again, probably, is this the port that stands on everybody's bucket list to go to? Probably not. But the things that I think that we found, Christy and I, in both of these ports, is there's a lot of fun things that you can do if you get off the ship and decide to do it and seek it out.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the way it is, right? With every port, with every aspect of travel, right? Like you can make almost anything a fun experience if you seek that out and actually try to make it be like that.
And you don't always have to pay for the port adventures either. I mean, it was a fun hour of snarkiness and silliness of just us wandering around the port there in Jamaica.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was just nice to get off, and there was a guy dressed up in kind of traditional Jamaican clothing and stuff like that. And he was on stilts and he was wandering around and kind of entertaining the kids and stuff. I watched him for a little bit. And so it's definitely worth getting out and getting a flavor of the people in the place that you're at.
Yes.
I guess I'll finish this with Ensenada too, is as you sail in and as you sail out on all of the different, it seems like all the different like buoys as you're coming in and out, there are tons of seals and they're barking because they're happy to see you. And then,
oh, that's fun.
Yeah, the fun part, and I'll put some pictures on this in the note, is they generally congregate up at the front of the ship and they'll just be sitting there lounging around, barking and hanging out during the day. So if you want to go get a picture of a seal without, paying for the seal excursion or something like that, you can just walk down to the end of the pier and see them playing around in the water next to the Disney Wonder, the Disney Magic as you're spending your day in Ensenada. So I think that's it for this episode. Any other thoughts about port adventures in Nassau and Ensenada, Christy?
No, you can always check out private port adventures. I really do trust and like Project Expedition. So that could be a good option for you to see what options that they have. And I can send you a referral link if you'd like. So if you wanted to send me a message, Christy@peckerpixiedust.com, I can send it over to you. But they keep the money in a trust account until you've done the excursion. So if your ship comes in late or has to change the day or you need to cancel, and actually their cancellation policies are super flexible, and they vet all of their vendors. It's a really good alternative to a cruise ship excursion. It's definitely worth checking out.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for 2023. We're kicking it off with this DCL 101. We had a listener reach out, and I didn't really talk to you about this ahead of time, but about this. We had a listener reach out, and he and his family are fairly new to cruising, and they were like, we really appreciate all of the, past cruisers that have cruised many times, but it would be nice to have, some 101 content where how to book a cruise, how to go about that whole process. And we did that a long time ago. And I could repost that, but I think that some of the stuff may be a little outdated. And unfortunately, the way Apple Podcasts works, they only allow you to have 120 or 130 shows out. And that was quite a while ago that we did that. So what do you think, Christy? Should we do another 101 with just the basics of how to book a Disney cruise or a cruise in general?
Oh, yeah. And then there's, a million 101s that we can cover on so many different topics for intro cruisers. So we're going to do that. And then I had reached out to ask for brand new cruisers, and we did get some feedback. So we're actually going to be able to have some of those going forward, because I do think well, we know, right? It's a very different perspective for a first-time cruiser versus us that have cruised so many times.
Oh, definitely. And we kind of get set in our ways and we say, well, we like this or we like that. And somebody else will go, well, wait a minute. Why did, we really like that. Or we were really excited about doing that. And that wasn't something that you were excited about. We all have different tastes though, right?
Right. It's even like the beginning stuff. And this is why it's really good to use a travel agent. And remember, it does not cost you any extra. But when we got on the fantasy last week, whenever, somebody was saying, go up to Cabanas for lunch. Cabanas is available for lunch. And my family did not go to Cabanas. We did the sit-down dining. But if you didn't know or weren't listening to enough podcasts ahead of time, or your travel agent didn't tell you, you wouldn't know in this scenario that you could go up to Cabanas or go to a sit-down restaurant for lunch, because not everybody wants that buffet experience the first day on the cruise. And so we're going to try to do more of these 101s and beginner cruisers to like let people know the little things they should know that they might not otherwise know before the cruise.
That's a good point, because I did not know there was a sit-down restaurant that you could do until like 3 or 4 cruises in. And I listened, and you and I started doing this podcast together. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. I thought you had to go to Cabanas. So,
and they keep it a secret on the last day too, that you can actually go to Cabanas. And it's like they keep these alternate dining spots a secret. Why? Why do they do that, Disney? So on the last night, they'll be like, you need to come to your rotational dining. And if you have first dining, it's at like 6:30 or 6:50 in the morning. I want nothing to do with any dining at that hour. So we would go to Cabanas. So it's the opposite than what Steve does. Steve does Cabanas on the first day and sit down dining on the last day. And we often do buffet on the last day and sit down dining on the first day.
But to be fair, we're usually in second seating, so we're not down there at 6:30. If it was 6:30 in the morning, we wouldn't be doing that 6:30 in the morning either.
No,
so
absolutely not.
Well, welcome to 2023, Christy. Excited to another year of podcasting and getting some information out, sharing your guys' stories, and trying to do our best to help you guys cruise a little smarter out there when you cruise. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Ensenada and Nassau. If you guys go to Ensenada or Nassau, if you have some experiences there you'd like to share with our listeners, and when I put this episode up on the Facebook page and everything else, if you'd like to add some information on that so people can learn things that maybe you've experienced there or enjoy doing, we sure would love for you to do that. So,
so what he's saying so eloquently is comment on either the Facebook or the Instagram post with your port excursions and things that have been a success on your days at Nassau and Ensenada. What port excursions you'd like to do, whatever it is that has been successful, so that we can teach the rest of the listeners.
And if I'm going to throw this out there too, if there's a port that you'd like to have us cover to talk about a little bit more, because between the three of us and just our whole community, a lot of us have been to just about every port that you can go to that Disney sails to. Let us know, and we'll do our best to get an episode out for you on that port. Because if you're curious about it, I bet you somebody else is as well.
Yep.
All right, Christy, as we get out of here, if people want to use your travel services, how can they get a hold of you?
You can reach me at Christy@packyourpixiedust.com. And that information is in the show notes on every episode, so you can spell my name correctly. And then my website is packyourpixiedust.com, and it has an about and a contact section, so you can use that to reach out as well. There's no additional charge to use my services, and then you do get planning specific to your family. And if you're not using me as a travel agent, please consider using a different travel agent, because it really does help small businesses. There's reps at Disney that make money if travel agents are used. So it's a whole thing. You're paying for it whether you use a travel agent or not. So just keep that in mind. And then you have like one person to get information from.
Exactly. We've used one for a long time, and I've always appreciated how she's helped us along the way. So as we get out of here, excited for 2023, sailing on into a new year, and all of your excursions, all of your adventures that you are going to be doing out there as well. Let us know where you're headed, and we look forward to talking to you guys along the way as we continue this podcast into 2023. And
for the 5th year together.
5th year together. That's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
All right. If you're
sitting out, I don't know how to do math. It's the 6th year.
6th year. Yeah, you're right. Crazy, huh?
Crazy.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.